When Christos Tsiolkas, the multi-award-winning author of The Slap, released Merciless Gods, his 2014 collection of short stories, critics were stunned. Neil Bartlett, writing in The Guardian, described the stories as graphic surveys of Australia's social fault lines, and its inapt judgment. With his trademark poetic yet cudgel-heavy prose, Tsiolkas' collection stared down the dark corners of our hearts and the dark corners of our cities, and found irrefutable humanity therein, visiting old Australian migrant camps in saunas and grubby flats in the arms of an abusive lover and truckers who armed themselves against the blacks, and a dying parent in an unhappy marriage with a racist, in the gulf between a socialist radical and his conservative brother. It's not so much cultural cringe as it is cultural reckoning, exposing darkness in ourselves and working to temper that darkness with empathy. Now Melbourne's Little Ones Theatre, a queer independent theatre company devoting to exploring gender and sexuality, has crafted a performance piece from the novel. Writer Dan Giovannoni has adapted the text, taking 8 stories from Merciless Gods and restructuring them for the stage in a work that runs for 2 hours, including an interval. After a successful Melbourne season, the production, directed by Little One's Stephen Nicolazzo, has made its way to Sydney. It demands your attention. On Eugene Teh's luxuriously red curtain backdropped set, a cast of 5: Paul Blenheim, Brigid Gallagher, Zopita Khan, Peter Paltos, Charles Purcell, and Jennifer Vuthik, inhabit with love and a welcome lack of propriety each of the 8 tiny, exploding universes of the script. There's a dinner party, full of booze and pills, where a story about revenge taps into old, cross-cultural wounds. A daughter trying to reckon with her eccentric mother. A junkie absolving his debit by working on a porno. A mother who can't bear her son's growing misogyny. And, in the strongest vignettes of the night, a conservative mother watches gay porn for the first time, with an impetus that turns the comedy to heartbreak, and a family celebrates the life of a dying, radical ratbag. Both star Jennifer Vuthik as the parent facing down the finality of death together. They show the sheer span of her range, from humor and brashness to emotional movemental performance, and most importantly, a disarmingly high comfort within discomfort. She is the standout of this production. Merciless Gods is a vicious and tender portrait of contemporary Australian society. Photograph Sarawak Tsiolkas writes with astonishing economy. Even the shortest of his stories bursts with three-dimensional life, history, and momentum. Giovannoni captures that sensation for the stage, preserving the full-bodied feel in the majority of his vignettes, even when the novel's stories have been condensed and streamlined for the stage for the acting company. It creates an intriguing tension. Every one of these 8 scenes could be fleshed out into a full work. Still, the scenes are also meticulously crafted and ultimately satisfying in their short-form production on stage. It's the first vignette, the eponymous Merciless Gods, that doesn't quite stack up to the rest. Its complex breakdown of friendships, cultural barriers, and tension-building storytelling games is a little too much to be distilled to a short treatise, and it lands softly. Its thematic link to the other first-act stories, the relationship between parents and children, is muted. Happily, the 3 following vignettes are among the work's strongest, and help balance out and overcome the show's relatively soft beginning. On stage, as in the novel, this Australia is shaped by its migrant population, driven forward in its national identity by its inability to acknowledge its own darkness. It rips the sunny, Shelby Wright made veneer from a country crying out for social reform, exposing the lost souls haunting King's Cross just meters from the theatre, exploring the families beyond the white, united, beaming ones on our commercials and local soaps. This an outsider play made by outsiders, and it's this lived experience advantage that gives the work its complex and rewarding layers. It is often brutal and tender at the same time, and it's unsentimentally queer in its storytelling approach as well as its content. It's a harsh theatrical landscape, but a lyrical one. The language is dazzling, insidious and vicious, and suddenly gentle but never sweet. It sets aside the dominant voice of Australia, its conservative government, its patriarchal and racist positioning of the white male above all others, and instead places front and center the silenced mothers, the rebellious women, the immigrants, the queers. It's trapped somewhere in between nostalgia for riot movements and old counterculture, and a restless move forward toward the new resistance.